Hey everyone, welcome to my second channel, The Cranky Cat Beyond. Basically, this channel is where I go more in depth about the lore on my other videos. Like, for example, this one is about if my pride was wolves, or in this case, my pack. But for those who don't know, which I don't know how you got recommended this video, but My Pride is an adult series, well, Canadian adult series that is an LGBTQ friendly story about lions. And it's about like a lioness who's trying to solve a broken world. For this, I figured if they were indeed wolves, it would be considered my pack, and it would be more around the locations would be different, the ideology would be different, and of course the appearances. But if you are curious about how they would look about wolves, I do have a video on that where I have redesigned them as wolves. So if you do want to check that out, it is linked in the description below. So anyways, on with what I was saying. So the beginning of the world starts around, the goddesses. In the series, they do explain a little bit of the lore, but they never really explained how the world started. So I thought maybe I could do that here. So if they were wolves, I think the stories would go more about how the goddesses, Suns, Kansu, and Azra were on a world where it was very plain. It was just dirt everywhere. And Suns used her gift, the sun, creating light. And Kansu created storms on the earth, and that helped the sun, and the rain helped the growth of plants. And with the growth of plants, animals came. I don't know, maybe they just came out of the dirt. I'll say, like, in the religion, they think plants came out of the ground and herbivores came out of the ground. Although these herbivores aren't the same as they would be in the present, they were more simplistic, I suppose, because there were no predators. But that's the problem with this beginning of the world, is that because there are no predators, there is no need for defense mechanisms amongst the herbivores. So they wouldn't really have, anyone to keep the population down. So they ended up eating all the plants, and the world became plain again. Eventually, the herbivores started to starve, so the goddesses came together for a plan to how to help the planet, thrive again. So the idea was to recreate something or an animal that was in their form, which was a wolf. That is why wolves have a closer connection with the goddesses other than animals, and which is why Azra collects the souls of wolves and not other animals, because they are the envision of her embodiment. Anyways, with that being said, as they created their own, versions of themselves, mortal versions of themselves, that you created two breeding pairs. Each goddess created two breeding pairs, and they were designed to have young, and those young were to have young as well, and they would just grow into like one giant family. Now they're called kingdoms because they've gotten so huge. We're both, I guess the goddesses were the leaders of the kingdoms for a meanwhile, at least. As the kingdom grew and food became less scarce, tensions began to rise. As the tensions began to rise, feuds started, and the kingdoms started becoming more hostile with each other. So as a way to diffuse this, the goddesses decided that they would choose mortal leaders instead of leading the kingdoms themselves. So they designed Karabi, leader of the Storm Kingdom, Kansu and Light, leader of the Sun Kingdom, and Kyoga would have been the leader of the Moon Kingdom? Yes, the Moon Kingdom. Kyoga is the leader of the Moon Kingdom. And to stop the feuding kingdoms from, collapsing from such wars, they decided that they would have Light and Kyoga be bonded together so that they would, not have such large feuds, and, the kingdoms wouldn't literally go at war. Of course, this backfires because Kyoga never really loved Light. I think she did. Maybe in the series she loved him, but ever since she saw like Karabi, her heart fell for her. Of course, this angers Light. He gets completely ballistic against it all, and he ends up killing Karabi just like in the series. And instead of actually, what the thing that's different about this series, or not series, but this revision of the series, would have been that Kansu was the one that was mad, and it was Sun that was one of the guilty. She was guilty because she chose Light as a leader, and he ended up, causing this crazy war between the kingdoms. And he was, the reason Karabi died. And it was Azra who, as still disappeared. And so out of Kansu's cold anger, she made a blizzard come to the Emerald Valley, which is where the three kingdoms resided in, and she just wipes out the whole thing. Although instead of it being a jungle, it was just a really lush, forest, a boreal forest, if that's what you'd call it. Or pine forest, whichever, it doesn't really matter, just a lush green forest. And after that blizzard, the world was never really the same again. The winter months became colder and harsher and longer, making it more difficult to survive each season, putting everyone at risk. Light, after killing Karabi and seeing the disappearance of Karabi and Kyoga, he was the one that told the lie, and this caused feuding fights between the kingdoms, and they were just too broken to fix, so he decided to make pack law. Just like in the My Pride series, it's a pack law. But pack law is a little bit different than pride law. Instead of a mane, which would be considered a male lion, here is an alpha, or alpha male. Not those kind of alpha males, but a wolf. Anyways, and then instead of a hunt chief, it is a alpha female. She is the first member, or the most trusted member, and the most skilled member of the pack. And below her is a beta, and the beta is basically one to take after her, usually her children. And next would be the Omega, the lowest rank of the pack, and I think would be where nothing was because of how, unnecessary, the unnecessary torment towards her. And in this world, instead of no manes, which in the series is considered a male lion that doesn't have a pride and it's alone, in my pack, it would be considered a dispersal wolf. A dispersal wolf would be a wolf that's leaving its pack to create a pack of its own. And in this world, also, wolves would be in groups of males, usually in groups of males. They technically wouldn't stay that way though. They usually just do this mainly because, the winter is cold, there's scarce food, and they need to work together to hunt. So these are like temporary groupings. Eventually they will leave and probably try to look for a mate to start a new pack. But yes, they would be considered in this world a dispersal wolf. And Nothing and Hover's relationship, Hover would be considered a rogue. A rogue is usually technically something that's a loner, or mainly something that is a troublemaker, which is what packs saw lone wolves as. Mainly because also once Light died, he wanted to ensure that nobody could leave a pack and face the rejection he faced. So which is why he made alpha males at the top and alpha females at the bottom, and all the other females at lower rankings. So to ensure that they wouldn't want to leave, he made up the lie of Azra taking souls only when there was enough wolves around to be able to howl. And the custom of howling at the moon is based off of Light's lie. Azra takes souls regardless, but ever since the death of Karabi, she stopped taking souls and disappeared, which is why Nothing needs to find Azra so she could continue to take souls. But for now, the souls actually go into the embodiment of Ghost. Ghost isn't one individual. At least it's a theory that he isn't one individual. Because if we've seen through the series that he doesn't actually have one personality. In different scenarios, he's stern. In other scenarios, he's really positive. And we even see him being possessed by Tangle, which shows that every soul that's ever died is being embodied into Ghost, which is probably why Ghost can see, or Ghost knows about the shifting place, because of all the information. But Ghost isn't technically an individual, he's many. But other than that, shifting place, I'd say in this world, is probably a waterfall that forms anywhere. It kind of forms from like maybe a random rock, or it can form from a hollow tree trunk. And it's really hard to find because it's constantly shifting, just like the shifting place. Instead, it's not a jungle. And the shifting place, the waterfall at least, it is a waterfall. And in this waterfall, if the wolf or whatever goes into it, they get shifted somewhere else, a location that's unknown, at least for now. And after that, other than the locations, the prideless stretch in the series, here in this alternate universe, it probably could be considered like a tundra, like a really cold Iceland area where hardly anything lives. Although in reality, animals probably could live there, but because it's winter all year round, it's hardly anything lives there. And that would be considered the prideless stretch. It's just way too cold, there's hardly any food, and there's hardly any herbivores, so it would just be a really difficult area to live in. Not impossible, but just difficult. And after that location, I think there was the Sister Step. Yeah, the Sister Step is usually, I guess, like the main area where most of the lions come together, at least Pride. You've seen in the series, Moonstrike's Pride tends to have this as well. It's kind of like I think it was a cave or just a giant rock. But whichever it was, I think the Sister Step would probably be called, I think probably be the same thing. And I can't really think of anything that's specific. I guess you could call it Sister Step in this world as well. But of course, the appearance of it would probably look different. I would probably think of it as more as a cave or like a small pond area. Like a tiny pond area where the pack like stays together, and that's like their mainly like sleeping area. And then there's, I think, another location which we don't see in the My Pride series, but I think here, if this was an alternate universe, there would be a field. And this field in this territory is where caribou tend to live. This is where they graze, usually during the summer and spring months. So that would be a very popular hunting area. Oh wait, one more thing, naming. So instead of a no mane, it would just be considered, like, for example, Star Mane or Proud Mane or Quick Mane. They would just be named after the Star, Quick, or Mane. I mean, Proud. So yes, but the females of the group still have to have their naming assessment, because the packs are very controlled by one dominant male. Because of Light's doing. Light didn't want to face the rejection anymore. He didn't want that rejection that he got from Kyoga. So in order to have that never happen to someone else, he made pack law and to envision that one person stays in control and whilst the others follow. And with that being said, yes, the females still have to do their naming assessment to feel like they belong, and they're not fulfilled until they serve the alpha. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching the video. Probably do another one. I you know what? Yes, I definitely will do another one if this one does well. If it doesn't, then maybe, but let me know in the comments. I think the next one I'll do would be probably the clan one. I know I did have like some lore on that videos as well in the description, but I feel like I could definitely probably add more to it and more uniqueness, because it did feel a lot like warrior cats. So I think I'll probably do something a little bit more different, or maybe the same. I don't know. Whichever happens. Anyways, thank you. Goodbye.